My name is Erin Lawrence. I'm here to tell you all about the morning of November 9th this year. On that day, just over a month ago, my brother and I were waiting by the phone after news that a massive fire front had come through the valley toward our mother's home on the north coast. At 10:19 a.m, we did hear from our mum, "House gone," 2 words, that was all she had. Moments later, a photo came through. What had been their home for over a decade was left a completely unrecognisable tangle of charred wood and twisted corrugated iron. And inside the ashy mess was every personal item that my mother and my stepfather had gathered in their combined 120-odd years of life. My stepdad, who I love dearly, is completely blind, and he lost a major part of his connection to the rest of the world in that fire. His lifelong collection of shortwave radio equipment, much of it he had built by his own hands, being blind, was utterly irreplaceable and is now gone. The kitchen table that my family had gathered around, the only photo I have of my grandparents is them sitting at that table from before they both passed away. My mum lovingly restored that table, but it was nowhere to be seen either. It was crumbled into ashes. I am thankful that my parents are safe, but they, like many others, had little chance against the unprecedented fire seasons that we're now facing. Burning coal, oil and gas accelerates global warming and is what caused these unprecedented fires. Since Westpac committed to uphold the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015, the bank has lent $4.7 billion to the fossil fuel industry, including hundreds of millions to new projects that expand the scale and the impact of the industry. This goes against the findings of this year's Climate Analytics report, which states that no new fossil fuels can go ahead if we want to keep warming below 1.5 degrees. As Sydney chokes on smoke, as we've seen this very week, and bushfires continue to rage unprecedented across the country, and it's fuelled by a record-breaking drought and heat waves, my question is, how can the board justify these hundreds of millions of dollars that you have lent to fossil fuel projects that expand the scale of the fossil fuel industry and put myself, my children's and my family's and friends' futures at risk? Thank you.
Thank you. So, Westpac has been at the forefront of banks in this country and banks around the world in terms of understanding the impacts of climate change. So we were one of the first banks in the world to acknowledge that climate change was real. We believe in the science of climate change. We have signed up to the Paris Agreement, first bank in Australia to do so. We have very, very detailed policies on how and why and when we will lend to fossil fuel companies and certainly to energy companies that have coal as their source of energy, of production of electricity. So where we're up to is we have a climate change position statement. That's a statement which goes through the board for approval. The last time we did that was in 2017. We have very, very detailed disclosures in our sustainability reports, which we publish every year, in terms of how we're endeavouring to assist our customers to transition to a world where it's net zero emissions by 2050. So we think that we can do that, but we want to do that in a way that is a transition rather than a stop-start piece. So you're right, we still do lend to coal mining companies, and we still do lend to electricity generators powered by coal, but it's all part of, but we don't do that randomly, and we don't do that in an ad hoc way. We lend if they meet our criteria, so that we will not lend into new coal companies in a new basin. We will not lend into any coal company where the quality of the coal is low. It needs to be high quality. So I think you've got to look at that, and I'd ask all of you to think about that in the context of we are playing our role, but you're right, we haven't gone to the extent of stopping lending today to all fossil fuel companies.
Thank you. I just have a very brief follow-up question. Because of the lack of leadership that we're seeing from government, I'm wondering if the board would approve some funds to go towards a bunch of all of the different GoFundMes and fundraisers that are happening across this state, particularly for the Rural Fire Service, who are essentially trying to raise money from the community. Is there capacity for corporate responsibility to donate funds to those people?
Peter, you might like to comment on this, but we do support the communities in many ways through these times. So we're doing it in the sense of drought relief for many of the communities in which we bank, and we're also doing it for those impacted by bushfires as well.
And that's right, Chair. We've made available a $100 million fund for people impacted through this, and we have both drought relief and fire relief packages that we're making available to customers. We will always look at other opportunities to support the community, such as the Rural Fire Service over time.
Thank you.